everybody, it is a beautiful spring day, and that means it's patio stone time again, because you always seem to just need another patio stone. Okay, now every concrete project starts with a form, and for a patio stone, it's pretty simple. We just need a box. Now this is 2x3 that I cut down to some 2-foot lengths and screwed the entire thing together. So it's about 21-ish internal measurements. Now 2x3 is going to be plenty strong and thick enough for the form, but also for the stone itself. You could use 2x4. I didn't need to go that thick, and I also didn't want the stone to weigh 100+ pounds because 80 is plenty. All right, now before we get started, we're just going to lay down a plastic drop sheet. Now this is just a plastic bag I ripped in half, and then we're going to place some sand in the bottom of our form. Now the sand is basically, you don't need much, about 1/4 inch, and it's just there to stop the concrete from sticking to the plastic, because it will. And it also kind of waterproofs the bottom of the form and stops water and concrete from seeping underneath. And because sand is one of the ingredients in concrete, it doesn't hurt anything. Now when it comes to tools, you're just going to need a couple. I got a concrete edging tool here to put a nice round over on the stone. I got a brush here that will help us later on to take the finish off. And then a steel trowel. Now another optional one is a wood float, but this again is optional for a patio stone. Okay, now ignoring the fact that this is clearly a different clip with a different bag of concrete because I forgot to press record on my camera, we're going to go ahead and start mixing our concrete. Now I'm mixing it in a 2-bag mixing tub, and I'm using a garden hoe just to kind of mix it up. Now I'm adding my water sparingly, a little bit at a time, and mixing, and you kind of want to shoot for that. That way you don't risk overrunning your concrete, because it goes from not enough to too much water real fast. We're kind of shooting for thick oatmeal here at this point, so no standing water left in the mix once it's fully stirred up, and it kind of holds its slump, so when you push it to one side like that, it doesn't just flow back. After that, add some concrete to the form to make it about half full, or maybe just a touch over. Now we can distribute all of our concrete into the form. Make sure it's up against the walls, make sure it's in the sides, and it doesn't have to be smooth, just kind of flat. And another thing we're going to do is just lightly tap all the sides with a hammer, just again to make sure it flows into all the corners and against the walls. I'll put this in. Perfect. That'll work just fine. With the reinforcement added, we can fill up the rest of the slab with concrete. Now when it comes to the reinforcement, don't overthink it. Use rebar, use whatever you've got available to you in your concrete aisle. These are just leftover scraps that I've had from other projects. It was a perfect use case here. Now, if you've added too much concrete to your form, take a 2x4 that's longer than the form, street it back and forth, push all the excess concrete to the edge and then right over it. Then go back with your wood float if you've got it, or your steel trowel, and smooth out the top and bring that cream to the surface so it can dry. All right guys, Slade and I just finished lunch. It's been about an hour or so, so let's see how we're doing. All right, we're looking pretty good. All the water is evaporated off the top of it. It's setting up nicely. Now we can start throwing steel at it. The first thing I'm gonna do is just sort of clean up the edges, anything that went over. Now that the edges are cleaned up, we're going to use our edging tool. Now for this guy here, it's actually pretty simple. We're just going to sort of cut a line lightly first, right along the form. Then I'm going to set this end down a little bit. I'm going to sort of cut our way in, and I'm going to lift this end up and work my way back across. Once I get to the other side, I'm going to push down this end and lift this side up. And just sort of rock it back and forth like that until you get it smoothed out. And then once it looks good, sort of taper off. And just work your way around. With all the edges smoothed out, you just smooth out the center. And just using super light pressure. Not really trying to change anything. Just smoothing out these lines. There we go. That's literally all it needs. Now we'll just let it dry longer. Oh boy, This is looking good. Okay, so we're at about the 4-hour marks now since we poured this guy, and obviously it's very dry, but it's also set up pretty good. Now, this is gonna vary kind of between the 4 to 5.5, 6-hour mark, depending on if it's colder or hotter outside, if it's in the sun like it is today, basically how fast it's gonna dry. But you usually wanna err on the side of caution and kind of wait a little bit longer, because otherwise when you go to wash this guy and brush it out, you're gonna end up peeling the rocks out of it and ruining the finish. Whereas if you wait longer, you may have to brush a bit more, but the finish is gonna be better. So let's go ahead and wash it. Now to start, I'm gonna wet my brush. And this is just a small little concrete brush you can find in the aisle. And you'll see I've got no nozzle on my hose. The water's just flowing out. I'm just gonna kind of soak it first. And then just work it around, get that cream to start coming up. You can see it's already starting to let go. Work the edges too. So let's go in there. All right, let's flood it. All right, and you can see it's still hanging on in a lot of places, and that's fine. Like I said, I would rather have to come back and broom it some more to get the cream to let go, as opposed to going too early and having all of our stones come up. Just a little bit more to loosen up right there, a little bit in here. Pretty satisfying to just watch a slow flood like this and see the stone come to life. And a little bit more in the corner there. And the more you brush, the more the bigger stones come out. You just sort of stop when it looks right to you. If you want more sand, brush and rinse less. If you want more stones, brush and rinse a bit more. I think that's it. Alrighty, so the weather has taken a pretty big swing since yesterday, but it's not such a big deal. But it's been 24 hours, and now it's time to pull that guy out of the form. All right, now the slab is looking pretty good, but you can see right along the edges that it's still pretty dark. That means it's wet yet. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna leave the form off the sides now, allow them to breathe. Hey buddy. And I'm just gonna give it another 24 hours. We'll come back to it tomorrow. Even Slade's leaving. All right, we are back. It has been another 24 hours now, so 48 hours total since we poured the slab, and now we're ready to seal this guy. Now, I've just got this stuff here. It's made by Quikrete. It's an acrylic water-based curing seal, and realistically, one of its benefits is so we don't have to continue water curing the slab. So I could have actually put it on yesterday. Now, double check whatever sealer you get, that you don't have to wait 2, 3, 4 weeks before you put the sealer on, because otherwise it's not going to cure correctly. Now, if you only put it on the top, which is where you only need protection anyway, it could still breathe out the sides, so it might not be that big of a concern, but just be aware. For prep, we just got to remove the dust from the stone, and right now it's windy, so any tree seeds and stuff that are falling. Give her a good shake, then using a little 4-inch paint roller, you can just pour it on. Yeah. You've already got a piece of grass in it. You can see how far this stuff actually goes. It actually lasts quite a while. Spreads out nice and even. Just make sure you get 100% coverage of the top. Well guys, that's a wrap. The stone is off to my brother's house. It's gone, but there's a whole bunch more concrete videos on my channel if you guys want to check those out. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope you liked the video. If you did, let me know. All the buttons are down below. If you guys build some of these, again, let me know because they're pretty fun. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Otherwise, I'll talk to you next time.